smallest voice carries the heaviest dream. The lights inside the grand auditorium glowed like golden stars, reflecting on the polished wooden stage. The crowd buzzed with excitement as one performer after another walked onto the stage, ready to chase their dreams. Among the hopefuls was a frail little girl, no older than 12, her clothes faded and worn, her shoes too big for her tiny feet. She held a microphone in her trembling hands, her eyes wide as though the world around her was far too big, too bright, too overwhelming. Her name was Sophia. Sophia had never seen such a grand place in her life. Her home was a one-room shelter with peeling paint and a broken roof that leaked when it rained. She lived there with her mother, who worked long hours cleaning houses, and her younger brother, who was too weak to walk without help. For Sophia, life had always been about survival, finding enough food to eat, making sure her brother had something warm to wear, and keeping her mother from losing hope. But beneath that struggle was a dream that had carried her through sleepless nights and empty stomachs. Sophia wanted to sing, not just sing, but sing so loudly and so beautifully that the whole world would hear her story, the story of a little girl who had nothing but a voice, and everything to lose. When the host called her name, next up, Sophia, the audience hardly noticed. She walked shyly onto the stage, her small frame almost disappearing against the giant curtains. The judges, seasoned professionals with years of experience, looked at her skeptically. One of them whispered, "She looks so nervous. Can she even handle this?" Sophia adjusted the microphone. Her hands shook. Her voice cracked when she said softly, "My name is Sophia. I came here to sing, for my mother, and for my brother." The crowd quieted. One judge asked gently, "And what will you be singing tonight?" Sophia took a deep breath. "A song about dreams. Because sometimes dreams are all we have." The music started, soft and haunting, and then Sophia sang. Her voice was fragile at first, like the whisper of a breeze. But then, as if her very soul had been waiting for this moment, her voice grew stronger, powerful, heartbreaking, and filled with emotion that no one could ignore. Every note carried the weight of hunger, every lyric carried the pain of nights spent shivering in the cold, every rise in her pitch echoed the love she had for her family. The audience leaned in. The judges froze. Halfway through the song, something magical happened. The crowd stopped breathing. People's eyes welled with tears. Even the toughest judge, known for never showing emotion, pressed his hand against his chest as if trying to hold his heart together. And then came the twist. At the very peak of her song, Sophia faltered. She clutched the microphone tighter, her knees buckling. The audience gasped. The music stopped. One of the judges almost stood up. But before anyone could intervene, Sophia lifted her head again. Through trembling lips, she whispered, "This song isn't just mine. It's for every child who ever thought they weren't enough. For every dream that felt impossible." And she sang again, this time, stronger than ever. Her little body shook, her eyes glistened, but her voice soared higher, richer, purer than anyone had expected. It was the sound of a child carrying the burdens of adulthood, the sound of hope refusing to die, the sound of a dream turning into reality right before their eyes. When the final note hung in the air, the auditorium was silent. For a few long seconds, no one clapped, no one spoke. And then, like a wave crashing on the shore, the crowd erupted into applause. People stood to their feet, clapping, cheering, some crying openly. The camera zoomed in on the judges. One was wiping away tears. Another was shaking his head in disbelief. The toughest judge, the one who never cried, had tears streaming down his cheeks. He whispered, barely audible, "That was the most beautiful performance I've ever heard." Sophia lowered the microphone. She looked almost scared, as though she couldn't believe what she had just done. She whispered, "Did I do okay?" One judge stood up. "Okay, Sophia, you reminded us all why we are here. You reminded us what music is supposed to do. It's supposed to make us feel, to remind us of our humanity. And you, little girl, did exactly that." Another judge added, her voice breaking, "You made us cry, not because your life is sad, but because your courage is greater than your pain. That's the kind of strength the world needs." The audience roared again, chanting Sophia's name. But the story didn't end there. The show producers discovered Sophia's story. The next day, newspapers carried headlines, "Poor girl's dream made judges cry." Videos of her performance went viral, spreading across the internet like wildfire. Millions watched, millions shared, millions cried along with her. People from around the world donated to help Sophia and her family. A fund was created to support her brother's treatment. Her mother, who had worked endless hours just to keep food on the table, wept when strangers she had never met offered kindness. For Sophia, the dream wasn't about fame. It wasn't about becoming a star. It was about showing the world that even the smallest voice matters. That dreams don't belong only to the rich, the powerful, or the lucky, they belong to anyone brave enough to hold on to them. Months later, Sophia stood on that same stage again. This time, she wasn't wearing torn shoes. She wasn't trembling. She was radiant, smiling, with her family sitting in the front row, tears of pride in their eyes. Before singing, she looked out into the audience and said, "I used to think dreams were too big for someone like me. But now I know, dreams are not about where you come from. They're about where you're willing to go, how hard you're willing to fight, and how deeply you're willing to believe. And I believe in all of you, just like you believed in me." And with that, she sang again, this time not just as a poor girl with a dream, but as a symbol of hope for millions. The moral of Sophia's story was clear. Kindness can change lives. Dreams can rise from the darkest places. And sometimes, the smallest voice can inspire the loudest change. The judges cried that night, not just because of Sophia's song, but because she reminded them, and the world, of something we all forget too often. That no matter how poor, no matter how broken, no matter how small, we all have the power to dream, and the power to make others believe in those dreams. And sometimes, that is enough to change the world. Sparkle's ending note: never underestimate the power of a dream. It may belong to a child with nothing, but it can move the hearts of millions.